And this one sounds completely backward. Why would America, or anyone, just throw away perfectly good, brand new shipping containers? I mean, it sounds incredibly wasteful, but believe it or not, this is happening every single day.
You ever get the feeling our world operates on a set of rules that, well, don't always make a lot of sense? Today, we're going to dive into 3 bizarre economic mysteries that pull back the curtain on how the global system is often weirder and way more broken than you could possibly imagine.
Okay, so let's jump right in with our first mystery. All right, to really get our heads around this, you've got to understand just how massive global trade really is. The entire world economy, more or less, floats on the ocean, all of it packed neatly inside millions of these simple steel boxes.
Get this, a staggering 90% of everything travels by sea. The phone you're holding, the coffee you drink this morning, the shoes on your feet. Chances are, almost all of it has spent some serious time on a container ship.
And think about this. Right now, at this very minute, there is something like 8,000 of these colossal ships crisscrossing the world's oceans. If you could see them all at once, the sea would just be a glittering map of our global supply chain in action.
So, what's driving this whole situation? Well, it boils down to a colossal trade imbalance. In 2023 alone, China had a trade surplus of $823 billion. That means they are sending out way more stuff than they're buying back. It's a one-way flood of goods.
And this one-way street of stuff creates a container problem. You've got all these ships arriving in the US packed to the gills. But America is a consumer nation, right? We just don't make enough physical goods to send back. So only about 40% of those containers ever get refilled for the trip home.
So what happens to the other 60% of them? I mean, you'd think they'd just, ship them back empty, right? That seems like the logical thing to do. Well, the answer is way stranger than that, and it all comes down to cold, hard cash.
And here's the part that just blows my mind. It is literally cheaper for a company in China to build a brand new steel container from scratch than it is to pay to ship an old, empty one all the way back across the Pacific. I mean, think about it. That empty box is just taking up valuable real estate on a ship that a paying customer could be using.
So these abandoned containers get a strange second life. They're sold off for cheap and get turned into tiny homes, pop-up shops, or just backyard storage units. And if not that, they're just melted down for their 2 tons of steel. So yeah, next time you see those huge stacks of containers by a port, you're not just looking at boxes. You're looking at a giant monument to our totally lopsided global economy.
Okay, let's shift gears to our next puzzle. This one is just as mind-bending, but it's not about what's crossing the oceans. It's about what's coming out of the ground right here in the US.
So get this, the USA is the #1 oil producer in the entire world. So why on earth is it also the #2 importer? It's like being the world's greatest baker, but you still buy all your bread from the store next door. It makes no sense, right? Well, the reasons why show some serious cracks in the whole system.
So there's no single easy answer here. It's actually a wild combination of 3 totally different things that create this paradox. You've got some weird chemistry, a logistical nightmare, and a law that's, well, it's over a century old.
All right, first, let's talk chemistry. The oil that comes out of the ground in the US, it's what they call light sweet crude. But here's the problem. Most of America's oil refineries were built ages ago, and they were designed to process thick, heavy crude that we used to import from places like Venezuela. To retool them now would cost billions. So, weirdly, it's actually cheaper to just sell our light oil to other countries and import the heavy stuff our old refineries know how to handle.
Okay, #2. Logistics. And this part is just a mess. It's incredibly difficult to move oil inside the US. Believe it or not, there are no major pipelines connecting the huge oil fields in Texas with the refineries on the East Coast. In California, it's basically what they call an oil island. It's so cut off from domestic production that it has to import about 70% of its oil from overseas. Insane, right?
And finally, the third piece of the puzzle is this super old law called the Jones Act. It dates all the way back to the World War I era. The original idea was to protect American shipping, but let's just say it's had some unintended consequences.
See, because the Jones Act has these super strict rules about who can build, own, and crew the ships, there are very few of them, and that makes them incredibly expensive to use. So expensive, in fact, that it adds about $5 to the cost of every single barrel of oil shipped from Texas to, say, New Jersey. At that point, it's just cheaper for the refinery to buy oil from another country. The law literally makes foreign oil a better deal.
Okay, our final mystery.
And this one feels less like an economics lesson and more like a spy thriller. We're talking ghost fleets, shell companies, and planes that literally disappear from the sky.
This is the absolutely wild story of how Iran, a country under some of the heaviest sanctions in the world, got its hands on 5 American-made Boeing 777s. It was a heist that took years and spanned the entire globe. These planes were passed around like a hot potato, from a desert boneyard in Australia through shell companies in China and Madagascar, hidden in plain sight in Cambodia, until finally, somewhere over Afghanistan, they just switched off their transponders, vanished from all radar, and then poof, they reappeared in Tehran, ready for service.
So how on earth did they get away with it? Well, it all comes down to this one incredible loophole in international law. Basically, the Chicago Convention says that you can't stop a civilian aircraft from flying through your airspace or landing, as long as you're not officially at war. So once Iran got the planes and slapped their own airline's logo on the side, they were, for all intents and purposes, just another civilian plane. And they were legally free to fly almost anywhere they wanted.
Okay, so what's the thread that connects all of these stories? Discarded shipping containers, a bizarre oil paradox, and a fleet of smuggled jets. They seem totally random, right? But they're not. They are all symptoms of the same thing, a global system that runs on these incredibly complex, often contradictory, and usually invisible rules. Rules that are, if you know how, surprisingly easy to bend.
What all this really shows is that the world we think we know is running on a kind of hidden operating system, a set of rules we never, ever see. And that kind of leaves you wondering, right? If this is the weird logic that applies to containers and oil and airplanes, what other hidden rules are shaping your world right now without you even knowing?